I'm going to bring along Dr. Brian Bostick, MD, PhD, general cardiologist, and cardiovascular disease researcher at the University of Missouri Hospital in Columbia. What is myocarditis?
So myocarditis is an inflammatory disease of the heart where the heart is either damaged by a virus or more likely the immune response to the virus. And this causes a lot of inflammatory white blood cells and other inflammatory chemicals that go into the heart and can actually directly damage the heart muscle cells.
Does a person experience symptoms with this, or does it develop silently?
They usually experience some symptoms, but they can be kind of similar to what you would have with a general viral infection, or potentially even, other heart conditions where you might just have general fatigue. You might, feel short of breath. Palpitations can be some of maybe the kind of general early symptoms, or then maybe even chest pain. And then eventually, if there's a lot of damage to the heart muscle, you can have, heart failure type symptoms from that.
Is myocarditis something that would normally be checked during a preseason physical, or would there be a way to tell? Like, hey, something's up here.
You can tell if you do very advanced testings that normally aren't part of a physical, which would be imaging of the heart. We think of the classic ultrasound, that echo test. It may not show it. We typically need something more sensitive for the heart imaging, like a cardiac MRI. Standard tests like an EKG that might be more part of a standard physical, for a sports team will show things that could be a sign of myocarditis, but they're also for many other heart diseases. They can help to identify who might be at risk. It's really probably a good physical exam and obtaining the history by the team physicians and healthcare professionals that can identify somebody who might have shown symptoms before, or if there was a viral illness, things that would lead them to need to check for those to do those advanced imaging. So it's triggers from a history and physical exam, and then possibly an EKG, but those are really nonspecific and needing those more advanced tests to actually diagnose it and see the extent.
Dr. Brian Bostick from MU Healthcare is joining us. So I'm connecting dots here. So if I get off a little bit and you can't answer this, you let me know. But so I see myocarditis and I see it tied to COVID-19, and I see conferences like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 said that they're postponing sports, and they had schedules set, and then all of a sudden it seemed like they did this 180, and it seemed like it was because of myocarditis. Now there could be other things that pop up with COVID-19, but that was the one story that kind of popped up. It's like, well, that seems to be the reason why they changed course. Could it be something as simple as for myocarditis, if a student was playing football, volleyball, contracted COVID-19, and they take the steps to quarantine, get the negative tests back, and everything is fine there, could you just do an EKG to determine if myocarditis was present then, and then take steps to protect that student athlete so that something wouldn't happen while they were participating in a sport? Is it that simple for something like this?
It's probably not that simple in most instances. Myocarditis is a complication of a lot of different viral infections, and so COVID-19 is just kind of one more, on the list that we've found can cause this. And so it's usually pretty rare, but with the extent that COVID-19 pandemic may, be on, the chance of myocarditis just by the pure numbers may go up. But really, the degree of myocarditis is hard to detect, especially if it might be at a very small amount of damage with just an EKG. And the problem can be with myocarditis is that recovery of the heart can take a long time. With just myocarditis, with influenza, with another viral syndrome, other thing that athletes may have, we'll have them go through a convalescent period of maybe 3 to 6 months where we want to see that heart has for sure been allowed to recover, all the inflammation subside, and then let them return to activity after doing additional repeat testing, which may possibly include a cardiac MRI. EKG would just be one of those things, though, and as I mentioned, it may have the potential to miss minor inflammation that still has a risk for potentially sudden cardiac death. So it's something we're used to dealing with other viral illnesses, but then when it comes on this scale, it really requires a lot of kind of care and detailed diagnosis potentially to make sure that you're safe to return to a really, active physical activity that football and a lot of these other fall sports require.